Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something really interesting, this unexpected connection that kind of sparks up after a war.
Yeah, it's drawn from a story called Ashes and Ivy. It's fiction, but it takes these two figures we know and puts them back in this familiar place that's been totally changed by conflict.
And it tracks how their relationship just shifts
Yeah.
in ways you really wouldn't expect. So this deep dive, we're going to pull out those key moments, really look at how they connect, how they heal maybe.
Exactly. We want to get past just the plot points of Ashes and Ivy and really dig into what's going on beneath the surface between Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy, Hogwarts after the war.
Yeah, how does healing even start in a place like that? We'll focus on those specific moments that show their dynamic changing.
And why those moments are so significant, especially when you think about, everything that happened before. Trauma, reconciliation. It's all in there.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Hogwarts reopens, but it's not the same, is it? You've got the physical damage, sure, but also this
Yeah.
quiet. It hangs over everything.
Definitely a heavy atmosphere. And into this walks Hermione Granger. Maybe she's looking for, I don't know, closure, a bit of normal.
And Draco Malfoy is there too. But he's different. Like the arrogance is gone. He seems quieter almost, hollowed out.
Right. And at first, they're just orbiting each other, aren't they? Especially in the library. They're in the same room, maybe even near each other, but it's like they're miles apart. That silence between them is loud.
It really is. This kind of isolated closeness.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. They're both dealing with their own stuff, the aftermath of the war,
Hermione's hitting the books, which is familiar ground for her. A safe space, maybe.
And Draco, he's just withdrawn. Such a contrast to the old Malfoy.
Yeah, and this quiet beginning, this sort of silent non-interaction, it means that any little thing that happens next feels huge because of all that history.
Okay, so the first crack in that ice, it happens in the library, right? Super small detail, a dropped quill.
Hermione drops it. Draco picks it up.
And just hands it back. No words, really.
She says a quiet thanks. He might nod. Barely. No eye contact. Nothing.
Okay, seems tiny. Why is this little fumble so important? What's the big deal?
Well, think about it. It's the first time that pattern years of hostility, of avoiding each other or worse, is broken. Even just for a second.
Okay.
It's just a basic human thing, picking something up for someone. But between them, it cuts through all that baggage, all that tension, just for an instant.
And there's no expectation, right? Like neither of them thinks this is the start of some big chat.
Exactly. It's low stakes. So it allows for this tiny flicker of connection without all the weight of the past crashing down immediately. It's like pressing reset, even if just for a millisecond, a first step.
Right, a tiny first step. And from there, something else starts slowly. The source material calls it a quiet rhythm in the library.
Which develops in a really interesting way through notes. In the margins of her work.
Draco starts it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Leaving these little sarcastic comments on her arithmancy homework.
Yeah, things like, incorrect rune sequence, Granger.
Yeah?
Honestly. Or that dig about SPEW, And here I thought SPEW was your worst crime against logic. Classic Draco. But maybe different.
Hermione, she fires back, right? Red ink, you're insufferable.
She does. But the key thing the story mentions is his thought. Still reading my notes, though.
Yeah. So even though she's annoyed or pretending to be, she's engaging. She's reading them. She's replying.
It becomes this weird, indirect way for them to talk. It's safer than face-to-face, maybe. Less pressure after everything.
Testing the waters.
Sort of. His sarcasm feels less biting. And her replies, yeah, they're sharp, but maybe there's something else underneath. Like you said, she's engaging.
And the text mentions the occasional shared smirk. Almost missed if you weren't looking.
Exactly. Little signs that things are thawing. It's a way to reconnect without being too vulnerable up front. Psychologically, that makes sense after conflict, doesn't it? Rebuilding trust carefully.
Totally. Then comes December, and this moment really jumps out.
Yeah.
A gesture.
The scarf.
Yeah, the scarf. Hermione sees Draco shivering. His robes aren't cutting it. And that itself says a lot about the Malfoy situation now.
A real visual cue of their fall from grace, yeah.
And she just pushes her scarf across the table to him. No big deal made of it.
But his reaction is a big deal. The text says he looks at it like it might, explode?
Yeah. It shows how deep that old animosity runs. He probably expects a trick, right?
Or just can't compute the gesture. And her response is so perfectly understated. I'm not hexing you.
It's brilliant. Just cuts through his suspicion.
And this gesture, it's more than just being nice about the cold. It's empathy. It goes against everything their history dictates, everything Gryffindor versus Slytherin stood for.
It forces them both to kind of recalibrate, doesn't it? She does something unexpected, and he receives kindness from, well, the last person he'd expect it from.
Absolutely. It's those individual acts, however small they seem, that can really start to break down those huge ingrained barriers. It's a powerful moment of personal reconciliation starting.
Okay, so the notes are happening, the scarf incident, but they're still not really talking until the greenhouse, mid-February.
Right, the sentient tubers, which sounds wonderfully awkward.
Doesn't it? They're replanting them together. And Hermione points out that one has feet. Just this kind of funny, absurd observation.
And Draco comes back with that deadpan humor. Looks like the Ministry's new magical creature initiative.
And Hermione doesn't just chuckle, she snorts, like a proper, unladylike laugh.
And the story highlights Draco's reaction to that. He's surprised he made her laugh like that, but also proud, pleased.
Yeah, that feels like a definite shift. Like the silence is properly broken now.
For sure. Laughter's incredibly connecting. It cuts through tension, creates a shared moment. His wit is still there, but now it's being used to, well, connect, not divide.
And her laughing so openly, it shows she's letting her guard down with him.
It suggests that growing comfort and trust, definitely. They're starting to see each other as just people, maybe? Not just Gryffindor and Slytherin, Mudblood and Death Eater's son. It's a big step towards a more relaxed dynamic.
So after the greenhouse snort laugh incident.
Which is a great phrase.
Things seem to pick up pace, subtly. Draco makes more jokes. Hermione starts bringing him books she thinks he might like.
These little reciprocal gestures. Sharing books points to that intellectual connection they probably always had, buried under everything else.
And the notes he returns with the books?
Yeah.
They change, don't they? Not just sarcastic comments anymore.
No, sometimes quotes, sometimes just thoughts, his thoughts, which is quite revealing.
And then that pressed sprig of ivy, that feels really significant.
Very symbolic. Ivy can mean resilience, right? Endurance. Growing in difficult places. Maybe even fidelity, clinging on. Lots you could read into it.
It's like this quiet conversation happening through objects and short nets, building something more personal.
Definitely more intentional. Still cautious, maybe, but reaching out on a deeper level. Showing vulnerability, sharing parts of his inner world, that builds intimacy.
Which leads us to the Astronomy Tower, the night before graduation. Big setting.
Huge. Under the stars, end of an era. And Draco approaches her.
And he just lays it out there, this incredibly honest admission.
He says he thought he hated her.
But it wasn't hate, it was fear. That line hits hard.
It really does. And then, you are everything I was taught to despise. And everything I secretly admired.
Wow, just peeling back all the layers, all the prejudice, the conditioning, the masks are off.
It's a massive moment of vulnerability. He's basically dismantling his entire upbringing, his old self right in front of her, acknowledging her strength, her worth, things he was supposed to hate but actually admired.
That kind of honesty, that's what allows for real connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting past all the old roles.
Absolutely. It clears the space for something authentic.
And Hermione's response.
Yeah.
It's so simple,
Yeah.
but so powerful. Kiss me, Draco.
Just that, a quiet request. Not demanding, almost. Tentative.
And the kiss itself, the story describes it as soft, careful questioning.
Yeah, not some dramatic movie moment kiss. It's quieter, more exploratory, like they're figuring out this new territory together.
It perfectly matches how their whole connection has been building, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Slowly, carefully.
Mm-hmm. It's a physical sign of that emotional bond they've built, step by step. And then the lingering touch, that unspoken moment afterwards. It says so much.
So the next morning, the Great Hall is nearly empty. And apparently, neither of them went back to their dorms.
Suggesting they stayed talking, maybe? Or just stayed together?
Draco finds her. And he's still unsure, isn't he? Still vulnerable.
Yeah, he admits he was scared. I thought you'd be gone.
And then, I thought you might pretend it never happened. That fear that it was just a moment, not real.
But then he follows it up immediately. I'm not pretending anymore.
That feels like a real commitment. A choice.
It absolutely is. It acknowledges the risk, acknowledges how fragile this thing between them still is, but he's choosing to lean in, not pull back. He's saying, this is real, and I want it.
And his plan for the future? It's so practical.
Right. Letters, lunches, visiting London more often.
It's not grand romance, it's logistics. It's about actually building this into their lives post-Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Making it tangible.
Which makes it feel more real somehow, more grounded. It's about the effort involved in making a relationship work, especially one starting from where they started.
And Hermione's reaction, a tearful smile. And Draco's line, hopeful, but still a bit hesitant. And you're mine, if you'll have me.
It's beautiful because it's not demanding, it's an offering, still acknowledging her choice.
And then they walk out together, hand in hand into the sunlight. The story calls it not the end, just chapter 1.
Yeah, it's deliberately not a happily ever after. It's a hopeful beginning, leaving the past, the shadows behind, but acknowledging the future is unknown, and they'll face it together, step by step.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Ashes and Ivy, what stands out most, for me, it's how connection can just bloom in the most unexpected places, even after trauma.
Yeah, and the power of those small gestures, the quill, the notes, the scarf, how they chipped away at years of animosity.
It's quite a journey from that initial silence to, well, holding hands walking into the future. From hate or perceived hate to intimacy.
And for you listening, hopefully this dive gives you that deeper understanding of how relationships can shift, how characters evolve. Without needing the whole book, we've sort of extracted those key moments that show how connection can overcome huge divides.
Right. It shows that path, those turning points.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Think about your own life. Are there connections, maybe ones that seem unlikely or have some difficult history, where maybe, just maybe, a small gesture, a moment of understanding could change things?
Could it be that big changes sometimes start really small, with just noticing someone? Or a dropped quill?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Until next